I've learned some lessons the good way as well, but typically we learn more lessons the hard way, unfortunately.
That's the truth.
And so the draw to, next generation ministry for me was just being able to save one heartache, just see what we can do differently is like, hey, if I can help guide you just a little bit in the right direction, then my story, my past mistakes are then being repurposed to help you not fall into those same situations.
Welcome to episode 120 of the NRT Now podcast. I'm your host, Jake, and I just want to say thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, make sure that you are following or subscribed or whatever that looks like on your favorite podcast platform. We have new episodes out pretty much every week. And this episode here is part of our Next Big Thing series. One of the things I really love about doing these Next Big Thing episodes is being introduced to a new artist and hearing their story, and then watching them as they go throughout their career here in Christian music, or if it's mainstream music, whatever that is, just watching them grow and continue that story. So today we are hearing from Sean B. He is originally from Denver and moved to Nashville to do the whole artist thing. So with that, here's my conversation with Sean B. We're here with Sean B. Sean, we had to clarify that just here before we started getting recording. I was going to come out with Sean B.E. I don't know what I was going to come out with, but it's Sean B.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, it's okay because the capital B and the capital E, we get that a lot sometimes. It's all right. It's Sean B, and that B, it's kind of a call to action. And so, really what the music, through the performance, the music, all of that, the message that I really like to bring is be who God created you to be, not any version of you that the world may have for you or version of you that, expectations may have of you, but be the version of you that God created you to be. So, be a reflection of God's light, be the love of God, be the hope of God, be all of that. And so that's where that B comes from is, it's a call to action and a challenge like, hey, God called you to be something more. Now go and be that.
I think we should have saved that for the end because we could have had so many more guesses of what the BE stood for.
Right. We could have taken, comment below what does the B stand for?
Before I don't even have anything myself.
That's great.
So as a newer artist and part of this Next Big Thing series, just want to have you introduce yourself a little bit and just who Sean B is and where you got your start.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, it's such a good story. So I actually grew up in church. So I'm from Franklin, Tennessee, but originally I'm actually from Denver, Colorado. And so I grew up in church. My grandpa is a pastor, and I love to tell this story of when I was young. You'd play pretend with your family, and so we would always, pretend that we were in church, and I'd pretend that I was leading the church and all that. But I would not pretend to be the pastor. I would pretend to be the worship leader. That's just kind of the influence that the worship leader in my grandpa's church had on me at that time. Just the songs that the worship team did just brought a lot of joy. I saw people, jumping and clapping and singing and all of that. And it was just like, wow, these people are like overcome with joy every time they sing these songs. I love that feeling. I love being around it. And so, music really grabbed onto me from an early age. A lot of my early influences were, guys like Toby Mac, DC Talk. Grew up listening to that kind of music and just loving that up-tempo, different kind of sound that's like, oh yeah, like I can feel this music. This is good. So that inspired me early on. Fast forward and kind of the career path that God allowed me to take before getting into music was I was blessed to be a children's pastor and a youth leader out here at my grandpa's church. And then after that, I was able to help another church that was kind of looking to build up their ministry in that area. I was able to step in and help them build up. But through all of that season, music was still really big on my heart. That was something that I really wanted to do. And, I had been just kind of praying through all of those seasons, like, God, that, this is the path that my heart desires, but I also want to be open to what you have for me. And I also want you to use me the way that you need to use me. And so having that prayer and being able to see God use me in church areas and ministry areas and all of that before starting me on this music path, looking back, it's just awesome. And I think later on we'll get into the reasons why that ministry, the children's and youth ministry, had such a big place in my heart. So we definitely loop back around to that. But long story short, through all of that season, we were praying for an open door, and God had opened something up, led me out to Tennessee. And I went out there and I met the team that I'm with now, We Rock Entertainment. They're my management company. And they said, yeah, we like what you're doing and we love to talk about working more. So that was on a visit. That night I called my wife, who was back home in Colorado, and I said, hey, there may be an open door for us to, really do this and pursue this full time, but it's going to take a sacrifice, a big sacrifice. And that's going to be moving from our home in Colorado, picking up and moving over to Tennessee. And, my parents, her parents, grandparents, all of that, my grandpa's church, like everything was out here in Colorado. And so it was one of those things when I told her about it, I was like, I'm so worried about how she's going to respond. And the first thing that she said, without missing a beat, she just said, okay, cool, I'll start packing. And I'm like, wait, are you serious? And she's like, yep, I believe it. Let's go. And so we moved, and just, not too long after that, God just showed us just that was the right thing to do. He opened so many doors. He allowed us to grow so much, not only in the music area, but in the very, very important areas, which is, personally, spiritually. We grew stronger in our relationship together. We grew stronger as parents for our 2-year-old daughter. We grew stronger just as people in general. So God not only opened the door for the music ministry to grow, but God opened up the door for us to continue to grow into the people that he created us to be. So it was just awesome. Great, exciting time, great, exciting season. And now we're here.
Isn't it crazy? We have this whole thing planned out. We stay close to where we grow up. Because I resonate with that a little bit too, because we made a cross-country move to where we're at now from actually the middle of Wyoming, just a little bit north from where you guys were at. And we made this trek down to Dallas for some opportunities. And my wife, I don't understand how she left all of her family to come hang out with mine. It blows me away just on a daily basis. I think what you're saying there, I think we've grown a lot just in that process as well.
Yes.
I have some family down here that we're close by to, but it just changed how we parented. It changed the dynamics of everything, new friends, new church. It took us a few years to actually settle into the church that we're at now. Or to find the church that we're at now, I should say. It's just crazy how having to make that leap sucked at the time. It was very dangerous. 3 months in, I'm sitting there like, crap, what did I do? This might not have been good.
But, I think that's so cool because, it's another testimony to realizing, okay, God, it's just like you said, the way that we plan things to go isn't always the way that they're supposed to go. We have an idea in our head, and God has what's actually going to happen in the way that he planned it out to be. I really believe in something that I've seen in this season is that the more that you try to plan and do things your own way, the less things seem to work out the way that you want them to work out.
I said I'd never move to Dallas, and God said, really?
That's crazy because I was like, years ago, I was like, nah, I'd never move to Tennessee. It's like farmland out there. What's out there for me? And then I finally go visit and I'm like, oh, it's not just a bunch of farms. It's actually really cool out here. And just to see how God takes your story and flips it upside down and says, no, you're not writing your story. I'm writing your story. It's really cool. It's awesome to see.
I was going to save this for a little bit later in the podcast, but I think we're at just too much of a good segue here to talk about the single that you just released not long ago.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that fits right about that same theme here.
Yeah, it's great. So the single that we just released is it's called Step Into My Story, actually. So you're right. Perfect transition into it. Man, that song, it's just got such a special place in my heart. So the story behind that song, I wrote that shortly after moving to Tennessee, and my team connected me with this great, just super accomplished writer. His name's Tony Wood. He's got so much experience, so much success. When I heard that they were reaching out to him to write with me, I was like, man, that would be awesome. It'd be really cool. But he's so far along, he doesn't want anything to do with the new artist in town. And you don't need to be taking time out to come and write with me, So I thought it was an exciting opportunity. And I got really excited when I heard that he was interested and, willing to come and sit down. So whatever God put on his heart to say, okay, yeah, I'll go sit with him and, we'll do a session and see how it goes. That was actually the first song that I worked on when I got to Tennessee. Me and Tony, we did a co-write on it, and man, it was awesome. That where it came from, just this place of vulnerability where we wanted to talk about, kind of like we just said, when we try to plan our own direction, when we try to do things the way that we think it's supposed to be done, it doesn't only like stop the progress that God may have for you, but in so many times it actually moves you backwards. So when we wrote that song, it was really me kind of talking about that feeling and those emotions of, man, I'm taking steps backwards now. I'm getting myself in a mess. And what we wanted that song to be was, first of all, we wanted it to be a song of surrender to, God's plan and God's direction, but we wanted to also be a declaration of God's purpose in our life. And so my favorite line in that song is on the bridge when we start chanting out, we didn't come this far just to come this far, because that line right there holds so much impact. And what is wrapped up in that is basically saying, when we ask God to step into our story, he gives purpose to everything that we've been through. He doesn't only give us purpose for the future, but he also gives us purpose. He gives our past purpose, and our highs, our lows, our victories, our losses, all of that. He gives purpose to everything. And he wraps it up and says, hey, because I'm in your life, I'm going to allow you to use everything that you've been through. And I'm going to allow that to make a difference, not only in who you are, but in somebody else's story as well. It's just one of those things where he changes your life completely, and the change that you've made serves as a living testimony to the glory and the goodness of God, the forgiveness of God, the grace of God. It all starts with asking God to step into your story. And when you do that, he shows you that we did not come this far just to come this far. So it hits me right in the heart, because it's so personal and it's so deep. And like, that message just means so much to me.
And I'd love to just touch on this every time it comes up, because I think sometimes we as Christians, I think it's just a human reaction that we get so stuck in just what happens to us.
Yes.
The highs, they seem to fade a lot faster than the lows do. I think we tend to hang on to those lows.
That's true.
Just so much more. And just that pain just has so much more of a ripple effect than some of our highs. Yeah. And, I think we forget sometimes that even though it's not fun to go through, as part of that healing, yep, I think we undervalue how it helps other people and how we can walk other people through that, because,
yes,
it becomes a way to serve other people. And you don't go to church for like 2 seconds without hearing about serving, right? About how serving helps you more than it does somebody else. That's
right. I really believe that I found this personally in my own walk. As soon as I was able to realize that my life, the things that I wanted to do were not about me, but they were about the things that God would do through me, my mindset, my perspective on everything started to change. And so I love just being able to step back and say, just like you said, hey, it's not about you. It's about the great things that God wants to do through you. And not only that, but, you talked about serving and how, serving kind of fills you up more than it fills other people up and all of that. And, we definitely are called to serve. And the reality of church, whatever ministry you're doing, if you're a lead pastor, kids ministry, youth ministry, welcome team, just out showing the love of God to people in your everyday walk. What all of that comes back around to is, it's all ministry, but you're not the ministry. People are the ministry. Your job is to love people the way that God loved people. Your job is to, be that light, be that reflection, be that hope, show people everything that God has given you, show people where you've been, where you are now, and say, look, God did this for me and this is who I was. And so I know for a fact that he can do it for you, because like I said, for me, I was the most stubborn, hard-headed dude, but God can take that and flip it around. And I know that he can do that for you too. So once we start to think from that perspective, it's like, okay, it's not about me anymore. It's about this ministry, and the ministry is people.
Well, being a stubborn dude, I am anxious to hear how that works with a children's ministry, because that seems like those two things are like on completely opposite sides of the planet.
Yeah. Oh man, that personality thankfully came and went before that season of my life. It kind of started in my teen years, and like I said, my grandpa's a pastor. So growing up in that church, you're just around church all the time. I mean, we're in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Friday, like all the time we're in church.
If the preacher was washing the windows, you guys were there in your pew, right?
That's it. So something that kind of came on in that season is just because you grow up in church and you grow up around, the pastor and all of that, it doesn't make you like any less human, right? So as a teenager, I'm still going through all the normal teenage things, but there was kind of like this different expectation. And I felt like there was this just heightened sense of people watching, people expecting a little bit more, people pointing stuff out. And what I really felt that I was missing in that time was like a mentor to come alongside and just say, hey, I would love to like teach you and lead you from the lessons that I've learned. I felt like I was missing that. And I don't think it was intentional. I think people just kind of assume like, oh, that's pastor's grandson. He's good. He doesn't need the guidance. He's good. But it's so interesting. I try to always remember this in youth and kids ministry now is there's a big difference to a kid between their family and like an outside mentor. There's some things that you just like, you're too afraid or too ashamed to share with your family, but that you would share with a mentor because you kind of feel like it's just a different relationship. And so falling under that, well, he probably doesn't need it. He's pastor's kid. I think not having that opportunity just kind of led me into trying to figure stuff out for myself. And when you try to figure stuff out for yourself, naturally you get hard-headed. When you get hard-headed, you get prideful because you keep trying it for yourself and it doesn't work. And so like, it just kind of gets you a little more bitter every time and you get a little more prideful every time. And so when I was able to shake that mentality really was when God was able to pull me in full time to saying, okay, hey, now I want you to use that mentality that you broke out of. I want you to use all of those feelings that you had, and I want you to pour them into the next generation. And I want you to be that leader, that mentor, that person of influence that you would have liked to have had at that age. And so that was a huge, huge piece of earlier. I had said we would come back to the reason for, children's and youth ministry. And that was a perfect way to bring it back up. That was a huge reason why I just felt that calling so big on my heart, was because it's like, I've been stubborn. I've been prideful. I've been the moody teenager and, you can't tell me nothing. I've been in that season, and thankfully God ripped me out of that season, and I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. I've learned some lessons the good way as well, but typically we learn more lessons the hard way, unfortunately.
That's the
truth. And so the draw to, next generation ministry for me was just being able to save one heartache, just see what we can do differently. Is like, hey, if I can help guide you just a little bit in the right direction, then my story, my past mistakes are then being repurposed to help you not fall into those same situations. And that also ties back to step into my story of how when we ask God to step into our story, he gives purpose to everything. And so even, seeing the season that I went through of struggle, it still showed me that I didn't go through all of that just to go through all of that. God repurposed it and allowed me to pour it in to the next generation. And so it's just cool how things come around, God works it all out.
So you dated yourself just a little bit when you're talking about your DC Talk references.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I'm totally all in for that, because I'm totally the DC Talk era as well.
Yeah.
Man, that was kind of a heartbreak when they broke up.
Yeah, man. They just they had some momentum going, and really, I mean, I still listen to a lot of those songs. It's funny. I think the first song that I remember memorizing was Toby's rap on
Jesus Freak.
Yeah.
Or was it
even
Jesus, before that?
It was Jesus Freak, and then the other one was I can remember it is Toby Mac, and the Mac is back, no slack on a DC shirt. Jesus is still all right with me.
Yeah, Jesus is just all right. The one they redid was it Doobie Brothers?
Oh man, I don't
originally.
I don't remember the reference from that, but I know it was Jesus Freak and Jesus Just All Right. It was those two that I like. Oh, that was cool. And so those are like the earliest, memories of I memorized that song. It was cool. I felt cool because I'd ask my parents to play it for me. I'm in the back seat jamming and they're just cracking up, But yeah, earliest memories I have with music is DC Talk and specifically Toby. So it's cool to even see him still doing this thing today. It's like, that's awesome. I grew up listening to him and see he's still smashing it, still relevant. Like, it's super cool to see, and it's super inspiring too. It gives you something to aspire towards of like, man, I want to know your formula of like, how have you been who you are and done what you do this long? And of course, his answer is going to be love God, love people, you
Yeah, I
know?
know, right? Well, it's just crazy. He's never really slowed down in the process either.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling to me.
Yep. He's just got that hard work mentality paired with that godly love mentality. And when you put those things together, when you can work hard and also love the people that you're working hard with, I think that's a great formula. And so that's something that now, working with my team, working with just anybody I get to encounter, I really try to just deliver that message, deliver that feeling of like, hey, we're here to work hard and we're here to love each other while we work hard. We're on the same team, we're moving the same direction. It's a cool thing to aspire to.
So Toby Mac and DC Talk aside, growing up with the Christian music, what are some of the other influences that have come into your artistry today?
Yeah. So, growing up in Christian music, another one of the guys that I listened to early on, I listened to KJ52 a lot.
Yes.
If you remember, yep. KJ.
100%.
Yeah. So by the time I started listening to music, he was a couple albums in, but I just really liked that fun stuff. Family Force 5, big time, the fun party kind of stuff. And that's on the Christian side. I would say more currently now is still Toby, because he still is super relevant and just very good. Look up to guys doing music like For King and Country. On the general market side, the styles and the fun energy of like guys like Bruno Mars will bring. I love to be able to have that high energy and, just that music that really, gets you moving, it gets you into it. But, the advantage that we have is that as we're doing that high upbeat fun stuff is, especially on the Christian side, is we're also delivering an uplifting message within that. We're also, speaking God's name over people. We're also, delivering all of that. And so that's something that I think is so special about Christian music, is you can have all the fun, you can have all of the good sounding and stuff like that, but it's just a little bit more impactful because, you have that opportunity to speak God into somebody's life, whether they know it or not. They're listening to the words, they're listening to it, it's hitting them. So whether they know it or if it's subconsciously, you have an opportunity to speak God into their life. So it's incredible.
Well, I just love nerding out over music, and especially kind of those yesteryears. So since you opened the door, I just had to walk right through it, since I don't get to do that as often.
Yeah, man. No, that's good.
Well, actually, as we're recording this, you're in, I was going to say Denver area, but it's a little bit south of Denver. So it's festival season right now. And you got to go home for part of this festival season. Home-ish.
Yeah, home-ish. Yeah. Yeah, I got to reconnect with my family out here. It was awesome. Spent some time with them in the mountains. Just good to see, the siblings, parents, grandparents. Got to go back and visit my grandpa's church for a Sunday. That is a big blessing. It's always good. Been away from family for a while. It's good to come back and see everybody. And, Colorado's beautiful. We got to, spending some time in the mountains. Tomorrow, actually, we're doing Elevation Fest. That's in Kremling, and that's a mountain town. We'll be able to be out on the lake and stuff. So just be able to take in the beauty of the hometown that we grew up in, and then back to my new home in Tennessee, and just back to the people that I've known grown to know and love there. So it's cool. We just kind of make more family everywhere that we go.
So I'm getting ready to head to my first festival in a while next week as we're recording this here.
Okay.
So depending on when you guys are listening to this, it could have been weeks ago. Who knows?
Yeah.
Coming from being like the consumer, going to festivals, concerts, and all that, now onto this other side, now that you're starting to do festivals, what are some of the differences? What caught you by surprise in that whole thing?
Man, the work that it takes backstage to pull off what you see on stage. So not just with my show, but being able to be backstage and see like the planning that goes into it, how hard the sound engineers are working. That's the one thing that I don't think anybody sees from the consumer side. Those sound guys, man, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be a show. Like they deserve more credit than they get. So I think one of the big things that just kind of opened up my eyes from being on the other side is like, whoa, a lot more goes into this than when I was standing in front of the stage and just waiting for my favorite artist to come on. And, I'm fist pumping with them. I'm jumping up and down, and a lot more goes into it that I didn't realize. And so it was really cool. And it made me appreciate all of the shows a lot more. So when I see guys like back to Toby, when I see guys like Toby, when I see For King Country, I'm like, man, I know what it takes to pull off my show. And you guys got 50 moving people on the stage. Like, I can't imagine what it takes to pull off your show. And it makes you appreciate people like that because you know how hard that they're working. And I would say the other cool thing about, you know, going from one side to the other side is being able to, even when I'm performing, when I'm planning shows and all of that, being able to think like a member of the crowd, being able to think like a member of the audience. Like, you know, how would I have liked the Family Force? I got to meet the Family Force guys and they were awesome. They were so cool. They make you feel loved. They make you feel like family. Like you really, you know that they genuinely care about you. You know what I mean? Yep. And so like, I love that experience as a fan, as someone who liked to listen to their music, someone who got to meet, like, I really love that experience. And so you get to think from that mentality of like, I know how much I love that. And so being on the other side, it's cool when people are like, oh man, it's so cool to meet you. I'm like, what? It's cool to meet me. It's cool to meet you. Like, it's cool. It's kind of a blessing because, you know, I've, like you said, being able to be on both sides, it's just cool. You get to see it from all angles.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah. And definitely I would say that's probably one of my favorite things about the live shows is the people that you get to meet along the way. Not only, you know, the other performing artists are awesome and you can learn so much from them, especially the ones that have been doing it for a while. But it's the people that come up to you and talk to you after the show that, hey, I want to share this story with you, or, you know, I want to share with you what God's done in my life, or, you know, those kind of things are so cool and they're so encouraging to hear because it shows you like, it reminds you God is everywhere. We could hear a story in one state, go to another state, hear another powerful story. And it's like, you know, God didn't just work on this person and then this person and one person at a time. It's like, it shows you God is everywhere because everywhere that you go, someone has an incredible story to share. You know, even as an artist, like part of our ministry is to brighten up people's days and, you know, just have that contagious joy and, you know, hey, we're, you know, God loves you. We're going to have fun with this song. And then, you know, I want to pray over you, blah, blah, blah. That is our job as artists, is to brighten up people's days. But it's so cool when it flips the other way around. Like I said, you know, you're going around different places and people are sharing their stories with you. That's brightening up your day. That's, you know, reminding you who God is. It's like, man, this is cool. Like it really, just going back to it, like it definitely works both ways.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I don't think that I can wrap the episode any better than that. I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, Sean, just wanted to say thank you for taking the few minutes here to hang out with us and looking forward. Hopefully you come through Dallas soon so I can catch one of these live shows.
Yep, I would love to. We're working on booking stuff right now, and Dallas is definitely on the list to try to get out there. And so as soon as we're blessed with that open door, we will be out there, and I look forward to meeting you in person.